It's just over 2 weeks since I've had my operation and I'm pretty bored. I still can't do too much. I'm still quite restricted in my movements and can't do too much. But I thought I'd have a crack at making a little kid's toy. I got Daddy to come over and lift out all my saws for me, and we'll have a little bit of a tinker and see how much we can do today. So if you follow along, you might learn how to make something light and easy that you can give to your nephews or kids. This isn't a health and safety video. If you've got these tools, then you're a big boy and you can work things out for yourself. So I'll just show you here the saw. The camera's not quite focusing, but you want to measure on a table saw, or any saw really, you always measure to the leading tooth, which is the one sticking out on the side closest to the guard. So there we have 25mm from the guard to the inside of the tooth, and that's what we're going to be ripping our piece of wood to. Alright, we now have our piece of wood ripped to 25mm square. The next thing that you're going to want to do is give it a sand while it's still one big piece. If you don't have a woodworking vise like me, this is a dirty little trick for you. So normal steel vise, but just put a piece of cloth or wrap it in something so that you don't damage what you're working on. Because I can and I've got a little orbital sander, so I'm just going to shoot down the top of the wood. I am using a piece of New Zealand native timber. By the way, it's burning my lungs. I would say it's probably Rimu, and by its nice yellowy golden colour. If you have a piece of hardwood, it's probably better because kids will end up chewing on these toys and banging them around. If you use softwood, it will probably get easily marked, or their teeth marks or chomped to pieces. The next step is to cut our blocks into small pieces. So basically from the stop to the edge of the blade, if I can show you, is 65mm from here to the edge of the blade is what we're going for. Just a free tip for you guys out there, if you're ever using a drop saw, obviously the piece of timber that you're cutting needs to be back in hard against the guide, needs to be pushed down hard and across hard. If you have a stop set up like I've done, as you cut the piece of wood, the blade comes down between the piece you're cutting and the stop. If the blade is still spinning when you lift the saw up, quite often it'll flick it back out. The next step is we want to get rid of these square edges and sand this part. So to start with, this is the easiest way, and just roll your wrist as you're doing it. That gives a nice chamfer on this edge here. You can see my saw blade is a little bit blunt and it has splintered a tiny bit on the hardwood. So now we have 6 blocks that are nice and smooth. I'm just going to tweak the ends up and then I'll show you the final few stages. The next step's probably the only part that you need to be super accurate. We're taking from the guide to the center of the blade is 12.5mm, which is half of what our block is. And for the height here, we're going for that 13 or 14mm, so 12.5 that way, 14mm that way. We're going to be ripping the blocks vertically. When you're doing that, you don't want to just push a little small block through the saw. So you don't want to have a block like that and try pushing it on its small edge. Get my hand. You don't want to push it on its small edge into a saw blade like that. What will happen is it will rock or kick and it will either shoot back and get you in the groin or in the face if you're lucky. So what we're going to do while we push these in, we send them through this way then we flip them round and we're going to send them through again that way, is use a bigger block of wood. This bit means it can sit flat and hard against the fence. Goes here, hard against the fence, hard down. Our small piece can then sit in here, and it's supported on this side and the back side as we push it through. And that is going to stop it from doing this rocking motion and getting us in the groin or the face. So let's see how it goes. Alright YouTubians, we've got all of those ripped. I've come out of it with all my fingers, but it's probably not the best technique. These here are what you should end up with. There should be, I'll show you when I can get it ready. Whole bunch of them. I'll show you the next step. So you can do it with a drill, just a hand drill, or I've gone and stolen my grandpa's little drill press and I'm going to give that a whirl and probably won't return it to him if it works well. The family heirloom there, it must be pretty old because it's Black & Decker, and it's actually when Black & Decker were good. You should now have a block with slots and a hole, if you can see it, through the middle. The last thing that we're going to do is just sand these grooves in here, just run a bit of paper through them to smooth them off a little bit. I've just grabbed a piece of paper, folded it in half, and just going to give each of the edges a quick. Once we have our blocks finished, sanded, cut, slot, drilled, the next thing is to put them onto a piece of elastic. Poke it here, poke it through. So we have a knot at one end, and we pull the elastic taut, reasonably firm, so there's a bit of stretch left in it. So that there is the finished product.
Do you want to grab that and give it to Kepler to play with?
No, I'm playing.